Once the Second World War ended, Paris, like all of Europe, went under a massive reconstruction. And what I was interested in was the reconstruction of lives, and that's why I decided to start A Remarkable Woman at that point in 1944, when Paris was liberated by its allies. After the Second World War, more than 2 million immigrants arrived from Europe to make Australia home. And with them they brought a completely different set of cultural ideas, language, food, art, occupations. And the 1950s really was the beginning of the opening of the doors to a changing Australia, from a predominantly British Anglo-Saxon society to a more multicultural society, one that we have today. In terms of historical fiction, I would say that the voice of women who have immigrated from other countries and made Australia home has not been heard enough. In A Remarkable Woman, themes such as domestic violence and the homophobic attitudes of the 1950s, as well as alcoholism, are just some of the themes woven through the story, and they're just as relevant now as they were, say, 70 years ago. Having lived through the Second World War and come from France and immigrated to Australia, Avril arrives with a far more developed or worldly take on life, and it's her ability to understand human frailties, to understand human complexities that sets her apart from her peers. And as she grows in success and grows in wealth and grows in independence, she's able to help many women and to show herself to be a remarkable woman through her actions and how she treats her fellow man. I was inspired to include rural life in the 1950s in the story because I wanted Avril as a character to experience life on a cattle station. And I was then able to use the contrast between her life in the city and the people she knew there, and her experience of meeting the Meredith family and her experience in rural Queensland in the 1950s. Having worked in the fashion industry as both a pattern maker and a designer, I knew I had total control over the content of my writing when talking about fashion. And bringing Avril from France, post-Second World War, to a booming fashion industry and the heart of the rag trade, which was in Melbourne, it just made a natural synergy between the character, the content in fashion, and those 1950 times in Australia.